Well, hey there, and welcome to day 17 of our 40-day journey through the book of Acts. My name is Greg. I'm one of the youth pastors here at Walnut Hill Community Church. And today, we're looking at Acts chapter 9. The whole book is 30 verses long. Acts chapter 9, verses 1 through 30. We're not going to go through the whole thing today, but I encourage you, when this gets done, read through the whole thing for yourself. It is an amazing story of transformation and new beginnings. There's a whole lot packed into this story. It starts like this in Acts chapter 9, starting in verse 1. It says, "Meanwhile, Saul was uttering threats with every breath and was eager to kill the Lord's followers. So he went to the high priest. He requested letters addressed to the synagogues in Damascus, asking for their cooperation in the arrest of any followers of the way that he found there. He wanted to bring them, both men and women, back to Jerusalem in chains." Man, there is so much packed into just those two short verses, starting with the simple word, meanwhile. Right? What that means is that this is in addition to everything that's happened in Acts chapters 1 through 8. While all of that was going on, meanwhile, this was also happening. Saul is continuing to be Saul, right? He is searching for, he is arresting, and he is executing followers of Jesus, people of the way. That's who he is and what he does. It's interesting that in John 16, verse 2, Jesus said to his disciples, "For you will be expelled from the synagogues, and the time is coming when those who kill you will think they are doing a holy service for God." That's what Saul was doing, right? Saul, as a Pharisee, Saul thought that he was doing what was right in the eyes of God. That's why he was going to Damascus. He was going to Damascus specifically. Damascus was this commercial hub. Caravans from all different directions converged in Damascus. And Christianity, the way, was flourishing there and was spreading throughout the region. And so Saul chose Damascus specifically, purposefully. He wanted to make the greatest impact. He wanted to send the strongest message possible. He wanted to capture the greatest number of followers. And so that's why Saul went to Damascus. He was on the road to his usual practice, right? This is who Saul is. This is what Saul did. This is what he was about. And so he was on the road to Damascus in to work on his normal practice when Jesus interrupts him. Verses 3 through 7 says, "As he was approaching Damascus on this mission, a light from heaven suddenly shone down around him. He fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to him, 'Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?' 'Who are you, Lord?' Saul asked. And the voice replied, 'I am Jesus, the one you are persecuting. Now get up and go into the city, and you will be told what you must do.' The men with Saul stood speechless, for they heard the sound of someone's voice, but saw no one." The men who were with Saul, they heard the voice. They could tell that there was someone speaking, but they couldn't see anyone. And the words that are used here gives the indication that they heard the voice, but they didn't understand what was being said. Saul heard the voice and he understood what was being said. Jesus spoke directly to Saul, right? The others couldn't understand it because the message wasn't for them. The message was for Saul, not for the other men. Each of us, you and I, every individual, we have to deal with and be dealt with by God as individuals. That's what's happening to Saul. He surrendered to Jesus. Jesus was dealing with him individually. And so Saul surrendered to Jesus, but people were still afraid of him. He still had to deal with the fallout from his previous actions, from things that he had done up to that point. Saul had to surrender to God and allow him to work in him and through him and to transform him. So the question is, where are you heading today? Will you allow Jesus to interrupt your plans, to redirect you? Will you let him do that even if no one else hears or understands what God is saying to you? Are there things that you have done, are there things that you have said that have caused hurt or damage to others? Will you take responsibility for that? And will you allow God to be glorified even in that hurt and that damage? What will you need to do, or maybe what will you need to stop doing to allow God to make that happen? As you spend a couple more minutes in your first 20, ask God where he would have you go today. Ask God what he would have you do today. Ask God specifically, what would he have you say today? And then go and do that. Amen.